Hey legends, what's up? It's Darkmech here and welcome back to another video. Today, we're taking a look at the Brewmaster Monk. Now before we get into any of this video, I just want to say that the information presented to you today has been obtained from and in collaboration with Legendaries, who is a multiple tank class player. He is the guide writer for the Brewmaster Monk and the Protection Warrior on Wowhead. He also runs his own channel over here on YouTube called Wow at Night, and make sure you go check him out. For the most up-to-date information throughout patch cycles and things like that, make sure you check out the Wowhead guides, visit the Peak of Serenity Discord for real-time updates there and frequently asked questions. Now with all that out of the way, let's get stuck into the Brewmaster Monk. We're going to start off with the rotation. So the rotation for the Brewmaster Monk actually has some variation pending your Covenant choice. Now the only conditions I'm not going to list over here is Touch of Death, because you're going to use that when it's available and when you need to. And if you need healing, you're going to be pressing Expel Harm. The only thing worth mentioning about Expel Harm is that 5 orbs, Expel Harm actually deals more damage than a Tiger Palm, so keep that in mind from the offensive value from Expel Harm as well. Okay, so looking at the Covenants here, we're going to start off with Kyrian. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use Rushing Jade Wind 1 GCD prior to hitting the pack or the boss. So you're always going to have that spinning and you're going to keep it up through your rotation. The Rushing Jade Wind on that 1 GCD prior to hitting the pack or boss, then we're going to Keg Smash, and then we're going to use Weapons of Order. Now this is going to give us 12 seconds of Nijao, and once that 12 seconds expires, you are going to hit Invoke Nijao the Black Ox after that. So Keg Smash, Weapons of Order for the 12 seconds, Keg Smash again on cooldown, Blackout Kick on cooldown, Breath of Fire, Rushing Jade Wind to keep the buff going from the first time we used it entering the pack, and then Tiger Palm to prevent energy capping. Moving to Nightfae, same thing with Rushing Jade Wind on that 1 GCD prior to engaging, Invoke Nijao the Black Ox if the pull's going to last 25 seconds or more, then we're going to Keg Smash on cooldown, Blackout Kick on cooldown, we're going to Phalanx Stomp, then Breath of Fire, Rushing Jade Wind, and Tiger Palm to prevent energy capping again there. Necrolord and Venthia play the exact same way. Rushing Jade Wind 1 GCD prior to engage, Invoke Nijao the Black Ox if it's 25 seconds or more that the pull's going to go for, and if you're Necrolord, you'll Bone Dust Brew. If you're Venthia, you'll use Fallen Order, Keg Smash on cooldown, Blackout Kick on cooldown, Breath of Fire, Rushing Jade Wind, and Tiger Palm to prevent your energy capping. From an AoE perspective, not a hell of a lot changes, but for the AoE rotation, Rushing Jade Wind on that 1 GCD prior to engaging, Invoke Nijao, again 25 seconds or more, Keg Smash on cooldown, Breath of Fire on cooldown, Blackout Kick on cooldown, Rushing Jade Wind, and then to prevent energy capping, we're going to Spinning Crane Kick instead of Tiger Palming. Now the big thing to take out of the Brewmaster rotation, both single target or in AoE, is keeping Keg Smash and Blackout Kick on cooldown. Aside from the damage aspect, Keg Smash reduces your downtime on your brews, which is incredibly important, and Blackout Kick grants you Shuffle, which increases the effectiveness of your stagger. So talking about your brews, you want to try and keep 1 charge of Purifying Brew on cooldown at all times. Try not to waste your first charge though on Grey Stagger at the beginning of your pull, especially when you're likely to spike to Yellow Stagger a few seconds later. That's when you want to use your first charge. Purifying Brew cooldown is 20 seconds per charge, but this time it gets reduced with each Keg Smash you use and Tiger Palm. Celestial Brew is our active mitigation ability. It's on the GCD, and that's really important to be aware of. You want to use Celestial Brew when you're going to take a large boss hit or when you're tanking dangerous packs. Again, this is a brew, so its cooldown gets reduced by Keg Smash and Tiger Palm as well. The tier set for the Brewmaster Monk is Garb of the Grand Upwelling. So the 2 set bonus is Breath of the Cosmos. Targets ignited by Breath of Fire deal an additional 4% less damage to you, and the 4 set bonus is Keg of the Heavens. Keg Smash deals an additional 50% damage, heals you for 66% of that damage dealt, and grants you 66% of that damage dealt as maximum health for 10 seconds. So the 2-piece is just a simple defensive boost. It's 4% damage reduction on like an 80% uptime. The 4-piece bonus adds damage, healing, and health bonuses onto Keg Smash, meaning that if you were to Keg Smash an enemy who has a debuff for 100%, 200%, or 300% increased damage, you will gain all that extra damage dealt in the form of a health bonus. It does work the other way though as well. If you Keg Smash into an immune mob, for example, it will set that health bonus value at 0. Looking at the talents for the Brewmaster monk, I'm going to start off with raiding. So a common raid setup that you will see is Chi Wave, Tiger's Lust, Light Brewing, Ring of Peace, Dampen Harm, Rushing Jade Wind, and High Tolerance. Now level 15 you can swap Chi Wave with Eye of the Tiger if you like, though on high movement fights, Chi Wave is actually a really good option considering that you can use it whilst you're not in melee range. Eye of the Tiger is certainly a more consistent defensive talent though, if you can stay in range and hit the boss with Tiger Palms. Level 40, you can swap Dampen Harm out for Bob and Weave if you don't require access to the extra cooldown. Dampen Harm has amazing value for large boss hit abilities when you need an extra cooldown. Looking at the Mythic Plus side of talents, Chi Wave, Tiger's Lust, Light Brewing, Ring of Peace, Bob and Weave, Rushing Jade Wind, and High Tolerance is the common build. Now level 15 for AoE damage, Chi Burst is technically the best talent on this row, though only by a slight margin, and the issue is you have to deal with getting the cast off from it, which can be annoying. If you aim it incorrectly, you can also pull a whole bunch of extra mobs, which is something else you have to be aware of. Chi Wave is a competitive DPS option. You can use it from range if you're kiting, and Eye of the Tiger is pretty much a no-brain option that just works if you want to go with that as well. Level 40, Bob and Weave and Dampen Harm. So you have a bit of choice with this one too. So Bob and Weave is just safe, easy, and a really consistent pick for Mythic Plus. For higher key pushes and places you know you're going to take massive amounts of burst damage, you can absolutely use Dampen Harm to survive, and it is a fantastic option. If you don't fall into that category though, Bob and Weave is just a really nice safe pick for you. Level 45, Rushing Jade Wind or Special Delivery. Rushing Jade Wind, again, is just a fantastic ability for threat. It feels really nice in the rotation and it deals decent damage. Special Delivery actually got buffed in patch 9.1.5 and it deals decent damage now over the course of a key. It can actually deal more damage than Rushing Jade Wind over the course of a run, as it just excels in AoE pulls. You gain the 50% 15-second slow from it as well, but again, Rushing Jade Wind just feels really nice in the rotation, and when you take it out, it can feel a little bit empty. Covenant choices, start off with this one. Every single Covenant is fine for all generalized form of content, which is like 90% of the player base. If you're an LFR, normal or heroic raider, play what you like. If you're a KSMR and you're going for plus 20s to get your portals and that's it, play what you like. But if you want to know the min-max side of things, again, we'll start off with raiding. Raid-wise, Kyrian and Necrolord are the two outstanding Covenant choices. Kyrian with Mechanicos and Necrolord with Marileth. So Kyrian is the best Covenant just from an all-around approach. Weapons of Order is a fantastic Covenant ability. Mechanicos has a great soulbind tree, lots of useful traits on it. The capstone trait, a Fuse Anima Accelerator, increases the damage of Weapons of Order and reduces its cooldown. It's just a really strong pick for the raid. Necrolord, on the other hand, is a decent alternative if you do not want to play Kyrian in a min-max environment. Bone Dust Brew is generally the second strongest Covenant ability available to Brewmaster monks, and its only real downside is it just has a short duration. It's a more consistent defensive bonus than Weapons of Order. The thing you have to ask yourself is, do you really require that though in the content that you're doing? It's also worth mentioning the defensive margin between Kyrian, Necrolord, and Nightfae is actually quite small. From a trait perspective, Kevin's Oozling and Marilith's tree actually adds a ton of value on top of Bone Dust Brew, so Necrolord is certainly an option if you want to play something other than Kyrian in the raid from a min-max perspective. Looking at the Mythic Plus side of things, all four Covenants are absolutely viable in Mythic Plus, unless you're pushing, the very high level of keys. And if you are, then Kyrian and Nightfae generally sort of edge out at the top. The top picks for Mythic Plus are Kyrian, Nightfae, and then Necrolord. If you want an update on conduits and things like that, guys, none of the picks have really changed. I'm not going to list them all because it'll take too long, but you can go through the Wowhead guide to get a brief rundown on all the conduits if you need that. So looking at the Covenants, Nightfae here. Phalanx Stomp adds a lot of sustained AoE damage and healing. It's also really fun to play in keys. It can be hard to play around though on certain affix weeks like Sanguine and Storming, where you can't stand still, you can't keep enemies within the Phalanx. That's when it loses a lot of value. It's not as defensively consistent as Necrolord, but the defensive benefit it provides is still extremely powerful, especially when you combine it with the Brewmaster tier set bonuses. It does lack some value in burst damage, but it is a great defensive choice and a hell of a lot of fun to play. Kyrian, same sentiment from the raid analysis really. Weapons of Order is just an excellent Covenant ability. It's an excellent DPS cooldown in Mythic Plus. Mechanicos, again, fantastic soulbind with solid traits. You gain File, which can be extremely useful on things like necrotic weeks or for bleeds and diseases that you need to be able to clear. Kyrian, just a really strong pick again. Necrolord, Bone Dust Brew is the best defensive option in Mythic Plus. It is weaker damage than Kyrian's Weapons of Order, but it is still decent. Bone Dust Brew is available approximately every 30 seconds, which makes it a reliable defensive option throughout the course of a key. You also gain Fleshcraft as an extra DR, which is a really nice bonus gain from Necrolord. I do want to mention though that Necrolord is absolutely a step below Kyrian and Nightfae when it comes to initial threat on pull or snap threat. Looking at the Legendaries, Raid and Mythic Plus both use the same one in Stormstout's last keg, plus the Unity Legendary. Now, what slots do you want Stormstout's last keg in? Gloves or Waste? What stats do you want on it? Verse and Crit. What about the Unity Legendary? You've got a couple of options: Ring, Boots, and Braces. And the big thing around these recommended slots is to not have any conflict with tier gear. What stats do you want on your Unity? Same as your main, Versatility and Crit. Brewmaster stats wise, we're going to take item level, then Versatility, Crit, Mastery, and Haste. Always sim yourself if you are in question about gear though. Looking at the enchant side of things, Cloak, Fortified Leech for Mythic Plus or Fortified Avoidance for the raid. Chest, you're going to go with Eternal Stats. Rings, Tenant of Versatility. Boots, Eternal Agility. Weapon wise, Lightless Force and Celestial Guidance for AoE and Mythic Plus, or Sinful Revelation if you want single target damage. You're going to run with Shadow Core Oil, Flask of the Spectral Power, Potion Spectral Agility, or if you want AoE, you can go with Empowered Exorcisms Potion. Armor kits, you're going to run with the Heavy Desolate Armor Kit, Health Pots, Cosmic Healing Potions, and then for your food, lastly, Versatility with Steak a la Mode, or Critical Strike if you require with Spine, Fin, Souffle, and Fries. Looking at weapons now for the Brewmaster Monk. So weapons wise, you're obviously just at the mercy of whatever decides to drop for you, but two one-handed weapons is the preference that you want to be shooting for. And the reason for this is that you can run double enchants this way. Now, a two-handed weapon is not a terrible option if that's all you're able to loot, or if that's maybe your preference and you don't care about min-maxing. A two-handed weapon does deal more ability damage, but two one-handed weapons due to the double enchants is absolutely the preference. Now, your raid loot weapon options, Domination's Deliverance. This is the fist weapon from the Jailer, and it is your best option, especially if you're a Mythic Raider. This is the highest item level weapon that you're going to be able to obtain, and you can get two of them and equip them if you're lucky. The Polearm from the Jailer, if you want a two-hander, Zovstrom the Unmaking is not a terrible option, and it has Biz stats on it, so obviously not as good as two one-handers, but it's still a really solid option. And outside the raid in the Mythic Plus dungeon world, Poxstorm has a really strong dot on it. It's the one-handed sword from Plaguefall. The dot's called Bubbling Pox. This is an insanely strong weapon for Mythic Plus, and if you're lucky and you can get two of them, you can run double these in dungeons. A two-handed option if you want to go down that way is Devos' Poleaxe. It's a verse mastery option from Spires of Ascension. So these are the best options available to you inside and outside the raid, and I cannot see anything changing once season 4 rolls around either. These are still going to be the best options that you'll be chasing. I just want to finish up touching on trinkets around the Brewmaster now. So a couple of trinkets we're going to go over. Blood Spatter Scale. It's kind of been like a #1 pick throughout the entire course of Shadowlands. It deals a lot of upfront damage. It's great snap threat, and it gives you a decent sized shield. It is just a really valuable trinket. Shard of Analyzed Aegis. Now this is from the 9 in Sanctum of Domination, and it is still stupidly powerful even in Sepulchre and Mythic Plus now. This absorbs a flat amount of damage from every hit that originates from a source in front of you whilst it's active. It plays very nicely with stagger, and it absorbs damage taken after stagger is calculated. It also absorbs stagger damage. It's not great against large hits, but it's fantastic in areas with multiple mobs like Ardenweald and things like that. The only downside to the trinket is it doesn't offer much in the way of offensive value. It's a very defensively styled trinket. Codex are the first technique. Solid trinket at higher levels, and the higher you go, the more damage it does. The reflect on it though can get you into all kinds of trouble, so be cautious about this. Brewmaster Stagger can also set off the reflect effect from this trinket when you are not in combat, meaning that you can pull mobs from the other side of the dungeon without even realizing it, so it pays to have a cancel or a macro for this one ready to go. Vial of Putrefaction is just a solid damage trinket that procs off melee abilities. Weaver the Warped Fates from Sanctum of Domination off Fate Scribe. If you need a cheat death trinket, this is a fantastic option, even on a heroic level. Offensive Matrix at mythic level, again Sanctum of Domination from Guardian, solid trinket both from a defensive and offensive point of view. Ticking Sack of Terror, decent amount of damage. The mastery on it is pretty underwhelming though. Cache of the Acquired Treasures, so this gives you a choice between 3 weapons, sword, axe and a wand. The value of this trinket is based heavily around its bleed effects, which you get from the axe. So you're going to go with the axe 99% of the time. You can go with the wand if you need a large scale nuke ability basically. It's a single hit and it scales off verse and it can crit. And lastly, Allergy of the Eternals. This trinket provides a moderate amount of your highest secondary stats. So for us, it's going to be versatility or crit. It also shares some of that stat budget with a party member who shares your covenant. So it's not a horrible trinket either. So that is it, guys. Hopefully that gives you a good rundown and a good understanding of Brewmaster Monk in 9.2 and beyond. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. See you, fam.